You've probably felt it your whole life. That quiet, persistent sense that you don't quite fit in. Even as a child, there was something slightly different about how you saw the world. You noticed things other people ignored. You questioned things others simply accepted. You felt emotions deeply but rarely showed them completely. And while everyone else seemed to move effortlessly through social circles, you often felt like an observer standing just slightly outside the frame. You can sit in a room full of people and still feel separate, not rejected, not excluded, just different. Conversations that energize others drain you. Noise feels heavier. Small talk feels strangely exhausting. And sometimes, after social gatherings, you replay everything in your mind, analyzing what you said, what you should have said, and whether you revealed too much or too little. Over time, you may have started wondering if something was wrong with you. Maybe you thought you were too sensitive, too serious, too quiet, too intense. Maybe someone even told you that directly. But what if that feeling of being different isn't a flaw? What if it's a psychological pattern that simply operates on a different frequency than the majority? Many people who feel different share one common trait: heightened awareness. You don't just experience situations, you analyze them. You don't just hear words, you notice tone shifts, pauses, inconsistencies. You pick up on subtle emotional undercurrents. While others move quickly, you process deeply. And deep processing can feel isolating in a fast, surface-level world. As a child, you may have matured early. Perhaps you learned to read the room before speaking. Perhaps you became independent sooner than others. Maybe you realized that showing too much emotion led to misunderstanding. So you learn to regulate yourself quietly. That early emotional adaptation often creates adults who appear calm, composed, and thoughtful, but who carry an inner world far more complex than most people realize. When you are highly self-aware, you begin to notice contradictions in people. You see insecurity behind arrogance, fear behind anger, loneliness behind hostility. This perception can make social interaction more complicated. It's hard to engage lightly when you sense deeper layers beneath every exchange. And because you see complexity, you struggle to simplify yourself into easy labels. You might also prefer solitude, not because you dislike people, but because solitude feels clean, clear, predictable. In your own space, you can think freely without filtering yourself. You can recharge without performing. And performance, even subtle social performance, takes energy. People sometimes misunderstand your quietness as distance, your thoughtfulness as detachment, your need for space as coldness. But in reality, you often feel more than most. You simply don't express everything outwardly. Emotional intensity doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks controlled. Feeling different often means you value depth over quantity. You would rather have one meaningful conversation than 10 casual ones. You would rather build a small circle of trust than chase broad approval. And because your standards for connection are high, superficial interactions leave you unsatisfied. Overthinking is another companion of difference. Your mind rarely switches off. You replay conversations. You analyze facial expressions. You imagine future scenarios. While others may move on quickly, you stay with thoughts longer. This can create anxiety, but also creates insight. The same mind that worries deeply also understands deeply. The challenge is that society often rewards speed over depth, loudness over reflection, confidence over contemplation. in such an environment. A thoughtful person can start to feel misplaced. But misplaced does not mean wrong. It simply means your operating system is not aligned with the dominant one around you. Being different is not about superiority. It's about wiring. Some people are wired for stimulation. Others are wired for perception. Some are wired for action. Others are wired for analysis. Neither is better. They simply serve different roles in the psychological ecosystem of society. And if you've always felt slightly outside the main current, it may be because your mind was designed to observe it. As you grow older, the feeling of being different can intensify or refine itself. You may begin to recognize patterns in your life, a tendency to withdraw after too much stimulation, difficulty tolerating shallow relationships, a need for authenticity that sometimes isolates you. You might find that large social environments feel chaotic, while one-on-one conversations feel meaningful. This is often linked to emotional sensitivity combined with cognitive depth. You process external stimuli quickly and internal meaning slowly. That dual process creates a mind that is both alert and reflective. You notice subtle shifts in people's moods. You sense when something feels off. You detect tension before it becomes visible. While others react to events, you anticipate them. But anticipation can create emotional fatigue. When you are constantly reading the environment, your nervous system rarely fully relaxes in social contexts. You may appear calm, but internally you are scanning, evaluating, interpreting. This ongoing awareness can be powerful, but it can also be tiring. Because you think deeply, you likely question yourself deeply as well. Self-doubt may accompany your introspection. You examine your motives. You analyze your flaws. You compare your internal complexity to others' apparent simplicity and wonder why you cannot move through life as effortlessly. But what appears effortless is often unexamined, and what is examined may feel heavier, but it is also more conscious. People who feel different often develop strong internal worlds, rich imagination, abstract thinking, emotional nuance. You might find yourself drawn to philosophy, psychology, art, or any field that explores layers beneath surface reality. You are less interested in what is obvious and more interested in what is hidden. In relationships, you crave understanding rather than attention. You want someone to see the layers, not just the surface presentation. You want connection that feels safe enough to reveal your complexity. But because you reveal selectively, few people reach that depth with you, and that can reinforce the feeling of separateness. Yet separateness is not isolation. It is distinctiveness. There is a difference between being alone and being singular. When you accept that your mind operates differently, the feeling shifts from alienation to identity. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "How can I use this?" Your awareness can become intuition. Your sensitivity can become empathy. Your overthinking can become strategic foresight. Your preference for solitude can become creative independence. What once felt like misalignment can transform into advantage once you stop measuring yourself against incompatible standards. Most people are not built to analyze deeply. Most people are not wired to question constantly. Most people do not feel subtle emotional shifts the way you do. And that is not arrogance. It is variation. Human psychology is diverse by design. When you begin to see your difference as wiring rather than defect, your posture changes. You stop shrinking to appear simpler. You stop forcing extroversion if it exhausts you. You stop apologizing for needing space. Instead, you build a life structure that supports your natural rhythm. You choose environments that value thoughtfulness. You cultivate relationships that respect depth. You allow yourself time to process before responding. And slowly, the sense of being wrong dissolves. You were never broken. You were never behind. You were never too much or too little. You were simply tuned differently. And in a world driven by noise, those who can perceive quietly may be the ones who understand most clearly.